Good morning, everyone. We and partners make the conference possible. We would like to take a brief moment to thank them. Akamai, DVS, Google, Atom, Diana Flex, Octane, Ixula, Vinculum, Trendin, Unicommerce, Tata Teleservices, ShopClues, AdGully, and Thai Bangalore. A gentle reminder, please turn off your cell phones or put them on mute mode so we do not have any distraction during the conference. We'll start our session today with a panel discussion on what are the technology needs of a retail brand. Heading the discussion is Mr. K.Vaitheeswaran. K.Vaitheeswaran is the founder and CEO of Indiaplaza.com. K.Vaitheeswaran is often referred to as the father of e-commerce in India. He's a serial entrepreneur in the Indian retail industry and is an internet industry veteran who pioneered the e-commerce industry in India when he co-founded India's first internet retail company in 1999. Joining him are the panelists Shivanandan Pare, Vikram Dasu, Rajesh Roy, and Vivek Venugopalan. Shivanandan Pare is the head of e-commerce at Madhura Fashion and Lifestyle. He has over 10 years of experience in setting up and operating business verticals across internet, media and entertainment, investment banking and retail. Vikram Dasu heads the e-commerce category management and alliance organization for homeshop18.com. He actually started his career as an actor and gradually gravitated to technology, his current passion. Rajesh Roy is a partner in the IBM Global Business Services. He leads IBM's Smarter service line in India. Over the last 17 years, he has provided advisory services to clients in transforming their sales, marketing, supply chain, and IT functions. Vivek Venugopalan is the Chief Technology Retail at Wipro. He has over 20 years of experience in the IT industry, helping clients determine the optimal technology solutions to drive their business efficiently. Over to the technology needs of a retail brand. Thank you.
Can all of you hear me at the back? Okay. Good morning. My name is Vaidheeswaran, and you've been introduced to the panelists. So we've got technologists, we've got retailers, and we've got actors as well. What we're going to do in this panel discussion, which is primarily going to focus on the technology needs of retailers, what we've decided in this panel is that we're going to spend more time getting questions and answers than having a discussion among ourselves. I believe that's going to generate more value for everybody in this room than for us to talk amongst ourselves. And for a change, what I'd like to know is to see whether we can start off by understanding a little bit of the kind of people here. Just with a show of hands, how many of you are retailers? In other words, you're running your own retail business or working for retailers? Okay. How many of you are technology people? Okay. And how many of you are entrepreneurs wanting to set up a retail business? Okay. So I think we've got a reasonably good spattering of all the three groups that would be interested in this discussion. Just to get this moving in the right direction, what I thought we will do is to start off with questions, as opposed to having a discussion here for a while, and then I'll go back to them, ask some questions, and I'll try and come back to all of you so that we have, like I said, more questions and answers than more discussions. Any of you can just start off, pick up the mic, ask a question. The only request I have is please introduce yourself as to where you're from. In other words, are you a technology, are you a retailer, are you setting up a business? And then if possible, if you want to nominate somebody who you would like to answer here, or I'm happy to just get somebody appropriate to respond. It's probably a little bit of a surprise because you were waiting for us to start discussing, but I want to throw this back and say, can all of you start the morning session off for us? Yes, please. Yeah, I think just ask. Hopefully we can hear. Okay, here's the mic.
Good morning, everybody. This is Vishnumohan from Jhansi, UP State.
Yeah, we can hear you.
I'm working for.
Keep it a little far away. Yeah.
To promote the retail industry in India in a tier 2 and tier.
Now a little closer.
Close karenge?
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's fine. Just keep it a little bit closer now. It's fine. Yeah, yeah.
थोड़ा सा और slow करो उसको.
Yes, please go ahead.
So I am working. I am Vishnu Mohan from Jhansi, UP State.
Yep.
My background is from NIFT House Khas.
Okay.
In fashion technology, I did it in 1994.
Okay.
Then I took the decision to promote the garment industry in the backward areas of India.
Okay.
And I made a project to start it.
Okay.
So NIFT also set one panel, and we did some surveys and a lot of things, and a lot of work. We did it to do something to tier 2 and tier 3 cities.
Okay.
I took the decision to promote the industry in only those cities.
Okay.
Whereas I have not seen any big brand, any top brand, which is promoting such activity in such areas, which has a very, very strong and very huge potential to grow the market. That I have seen it. During the surveys, I found such people who are really very keen to take such things. They are really waiting for such products into their place.
Sure.
But it is not available. What is their need? That is absent from the market. That I know it. So my request, as according to the panel,
Yeah.
to start with how to promote this retail industry into the backward areas or tier 2, tier 3 cities of India.
Okay. So, well, I think it's a fairly large scoped question. I'm not sure it relates to the technology part. But maybe somebody can briefly try and answer that. Shiva, you come from just see if you have some thoughts on it.
Yeah, so
And see if you can bring in a technology aspect of how technology can help promote retail in smaller towns.
so there are the two aspects. One is as promoting retailing as such in terms of from a business point of view. Second is taking these brands or products to these towns. Both have a gap. Primarily, it is driven by supply and demand, right? So demand, if a corporate realizes that there's demand, it will figure out its way to reach there. Now, interestingly, the last 4 to 5 years boom in e-commerce or online retailing has been driven by these towns, these markets. So for us, I represent Madura and we just launched trendin.com. For us, the stat says that around 56% of our orders are coming from there, which these towns are economically not viable for us to take physical stores of each brand and go. So that way, yes, technology is driving these brands or enabling customers there to buy these brands. It is also building a lot of ecosystem. The second level probably somebody could try out that, if there is opportunity to drive employment there. So the other larger challenge for online retailers in these towns is the logistic penetration. So lot of logistic partners do not like the goods there. Then there is an entrepreneurial opportunity there that you create hubs there at taluk level or at panchayat level and create entrepreneurs there and say that you represent us. Slowly he can start representing multiple online retailers. Now if somebody might be planning it because entrepreneurship is something which we don't know at what time somebody sparks and starts executing this. These are a couple of things which technology would enable for retailing to go to these last miles.
Yeah.
From a technology perspective, to answer your question, to Shiv's point, obviously the tier 2, tier 3 cities, we are seeing much more of attraction from an e-commerce perspective, right? So not just low-end, low-ticket items, but even high-end items like the jewelry business, right? Where the significant amount of the business is coming from these tier 2, tier 3 cities, right? So the other aspect of this is how do you promote this? So there's also, if you were interested in setting this up such a way that there's actually an e-franchise model as opposed to the regular kind of franchise, the brick and mortar franchise. There's also a e-franchise business model that you can pretty much set up to, get more entrepreneurs into the business, right? You may not have a good presence in some of the smaller cities, but through this e-franchise model, somebody who knows that city well, somebody who's well connected in that city, can make use of essentially your brand, and using your online presence, right, to essentially sell into that market.
Yep.
I'll just take a
sure.
shot at
Yeah.
that. So, any rural penetration or tier 2, tier 3, tier 4 cities and towns, if you're talking about retail penetration, it has to happen in a manner where public and private enterprises come together, right? Because there's a bunch of things that need to happen, whether it's the backend, the logistics, the transportation, so on and so forth. But I think it's erroneous to say that brands are not focused on those towns and cities. It may not be overtly visible for people who are monitoring this. I'll just give you our own example. I work for Home Shop 18. We serve 2,700 plus towns and cities in the country, down to places like Bayanagudem, Dindigal, whatever it is. But that kind of a reach is possible only when there is certain infrastructure already in place. No single enterprise will take on the massive task of building the infrastructure and rolling out their business. So some of this will be possible only when government and private enterprises shake hands with each other.
Yep. Anybody else has any other question? Yes, please. Yeah. You. Yes. The mic is behind you.
Hi, I'm Shekhar Prabhakar. I am a professor of marketing at Wellington. My question to the panel is, in e-tailing or e-commerce, how is branding different from having physical stores? Do you use technology more in an e-commerce situation than you in a physical store situation, or there's no difference really?
So maybe Vivek and then Rajesh, the two of you can.
If you look at, it's really not a question of where do I use more technology. Actually today, especially in some of the mature markets like say the US or Europe, the evolution is actually driven by the customer. When a customer takes on more and more technology, the next new toy from Apple is going to drive a lot more other businesses to change their business models, right? So that really is the determining factor. So today a customer can walk in with their smartphone into a physical store, and they can price compare your products in the physical store and buy it at a cheaper retailer if it's a price-sensitive segment that you're working with. So the question really is, how do you make sure your customer is well served, right? And when we now I add on to the brand aspect to the top of it, right? So the whole idea is now becoming, it's an omni-channel industry where you have to provide the right experience for a customer in all the in all the channels. So how do you do that? The only way you do that is that you put the same emphasis on your brand across all the channels, right? If your brand stands for customer service, you should provide the excellent customer service, whether he's in a store or whether he's online. If your brand stands for price-sensitive, great, products, value, right, segment, and that's where you focus, right? So really pick what your brand stands for and use technology to drive that aspect in every channel that you operate.
Yeah, sure. To Vivek's point, your customer is the heart of all these interactions, right? So we call it the age of the chief executive customer, right? Because for the first time, the customer has the ability to influence your brand in ways that you can't quite control, right? But you can certainly influence it in a way through various social media channels and online channels, and try to get the customer aligned with your brand and supporting your brand. Right? Essentially, you want to take the customer all the way from being aware of your brand to being a loyalist for your brand. Right? So this is a journey. Typical retail business has been very transactional. People walk into the store, pick up the goods, and then walk out. Right? But given the level of competition that we have, we want customers to come back, and we want customers to advocate for us. Right? So for every for every customer that's engaged with you online, they spend about 2x more engagement, right? 2x more dollars on once they're engaged, and about 4x they recommend you 4 times more, right? So that's the level of engagement that you can have if you're able to engage with the client, customer online.
Yes, please.
Hi, my name is Puneet Kapoor. My question is for Home Shop 18. Yesterday we heard that the penetration of television in the country is probably not as high as penetration through internet connections. Would you agree with that? And my second question is that for tier 2 and tier 3 places where there isn't enough bandwidth and reach, we heard about sending in these handhelds where you can interact with the internet through that. So can you elaborate on the technology that is being used to do that through tablets? Can 2G and 3G really serve that purpose on a practical basis?
So, so there are two parts to your question, right? Number one question is, which is I don't agree with. So you're saying television penetration is less than internet penetration?
We heard that the number of television sets in the country is approximately 10 million plus. So if you multiply that by the number of people viewing, and if you look at internet connections, they are in excess of 120 million.
No, that's it's completely other way around, actually, because if you were to look at the number of households itself, and television has a penetration of close to 89 to 90% in terms of reach. And forget about the fact that there may be I don't have the exact number of television sets in the country. The reach is as high as 90%. If you were to look at purely in terms of footprint, right, Doordarshan reaches 97% of the country's population. So that's erroneous, and we can take this offline. I can give you some numbers on that one. That's one thing. Second is your question about, and by the way, there are about 150 plus million online users, and only about 55 or so who are transacting online in any form of fashion, whether it's travel e-commerce or shopping e-commerce or service e-commerce, right? We have still a long way to go if you compare ourselves with big markets like either China or the US for that matter. The second question is about handheld devices and whether commerce can be possible through it. Yes, I mean I guess a lot of panelists yesterday and even today, I'm sure, would agree with me on this one. There's a tremendous amount of potential for m-commerce, but there are a bunch of things that need to happen. It's not just about selling. Selling, a transaction can happen easily, relatively speaking, but how do you fulfill an order is yet another big challenge. Earlier I was addressing that gentleman about how the logistics infrastructure in India is relatively speaking poor, right? We ourselves, as I said, reach 2,700 towns and cities in the country, touching about 15,000 plus pin codes. And it's a struggle. We can't possibly roll out our own courier network across the country. We rely on a bunch of networks. Couriers. We formed a fairly robust network of couriers through which we fulfill. Now, so what you were talking earlier about the mobile devices, whether it's a handheld or a tablet or a mobile phone, yes, there is a tremendous amount of potential. Unfortunately, we have not penetrated that space yet as Home Shop 18. We have an m-commerce division. It's still in its nascent stages of evolution. But we hope that in about a year's time, it will start contributing to at least 15% of our overall revenue, which would be sizable.
Yeah, I'll come back to you. So let me get a set of questions going, and then I'll come back to the audience. Vivek, let me get some thoughts from you on a very important topic. A lot of technology has been deployed over the last several years, certainly from the time Amazon started there. People who bought this also bought. And increasingly technology is being used based on customer behavior. What are they going to see? What are they going to buy? What are they going to likely to buy? What should we throw up to them in relation to their browsing behavior? Obviously technology drives all this. So can you tell us how technology can enable a retailer throw up a right set of choices, especially in the online world where selection is humongous? out of that vast selection, how do we pick the right ones, throw it up to the customer who's browsing, throw up different sets to different customers so that the same site appears differently to people. So just tell us some aspects about that.
One of the things that we are right now working with some of our customers in North America is, I mean, it actually goes back to a very fundamental question, right? What is the right choice that you want to show to your customer, and what's going to make that sale? I don't think anybody has ever found a silver bullet answer to the question, neither has Amazon nor has anybody else. So now it comes down to how can you experiment fast, right? How can you try different things and figure out what sticks, right? So this sort of goes back to the financial industry, right? Financial industry, if you look at trading, stock trading started with people trying to create interesting, faster networks to do trading, and then algorithmic trading came into place. Now it's coming down to a fact that how close is your data center, which runs all your algorithms, how close is it located with the stock exchange? Because that distance is now starting to matter. So that evolution of figuring out, what is going to work and what kind of minute combinations are possible, right? That evolution, if you take that same concept from the financial industry and apply it to retail. Today, what we are trying to do with a lot of our clients is take, first look at the data that we're getting. There's tremendous amounts of data. As somebody mentioned earlier, there's just too much data flowing, right? And the biggest challenge today is we don't know which data is actually relevant. We don't know what to throw away. So the only way to figure that out is to take the data, create some insights out of it, and to simplify it very, at a very high level, assign some probabilistic values to those assumptions, right? So you assume that product A and product B may sell with each other, and the probability of doing that is say 60%. So once you assign probabilistic values to something like this, based on customer behavior, products availability, so on and so forth, the markets that you're serving, so on, etc., then you start pushing, you start experimenting, right? That combination. So that's what we used to call A/B testing. Now it's evolved into multivariate testing, so many different ways. But at the end of the day, it's an experiment that you run. You run that experiment for a short period of time, figure out what experiment works. And if you can automate all this end to end, right, and make your own systems, make the algorithmic calculations, make the decisions on what experiments to run, and actually run the experiment fast on your platforms and figure out what is the conversion rate. And based on that, you keep picking the experiments that is successful. I mean, that's sort of the platforms that we are starting to build today. And that's sort of moving towards the whole trading platforms that financial industries have.
Okay. You want to add something?
Yeah, sure. I'd like to just add a couple of points, right? One is, that the basic way to handle this is understanding your customer, right? So there's two key points where the information is coming from. One is the digital world. The other is the physical world, right? In the digital world, today, we are able to get information of who's online, what they're seeing, where they're stopping, why they're stopping, right, or converting, right? As well as we're able to see the social side of it as to what they're talking about on the social channels. We're able to actually collect all this data between the digital channels as well as the social channels and integrate that into some sort of a profile, right, which gives us, the retailers, a very good idea of who this customer is, what their preferences are, and we're able to do it on almost like 20, 30 variables, right? I mean, traditionally, this is, you do customer segmentation based on 5 different segments and so on. But we're able to do this around, 20 to 30 variables, so that, you might be out of Chennai and living in Bangalore, I might be out of Hyderabad living in Bangalore, but we read different newspapers based on our preferences. And so you know exactly who to target, what to target, right? And personalized recommendations. And sort of the immediacy, right? I might be on Twitter, and that's where I need the recommendation to be sent to me, as opposed to, put a print ad where somebody else might be doing a print ad, but I may not be interested in it. The other aspect that's changing is I think retailers are essentially working with their distributed retail chain to collect information. I mean, I know a pharmacy that knows exactly what medicines I'm buying every single month, and they call me on the 3rd week of the month and say, can I send these home again, right? So it's almost like a subscription basis. When I give them my information, I'm sure if I'm buying a shirt from his store, or if I'm buying something else from Home Shop 18, I'm more than willing to share my information. Right? So that information from the physical world is again merged with this online profile. So people are able to understand the customer in a more, holistic manner, right? That's the information we're able to use to essentially personalize recommendations and make the immediacy of those recommendations happen.
Okay. So, leading off from this, Shiva, let me ask you something. You come from a very different background. A large part of your business, let's say over the last several years, would have been restricted to people walking into one of those stores, buying a shirt or a pant, and now suddenly there are online stores, there's social media, there's Twitter, consumers are walking into stores, calling up on the phone, they're using Android, they're using iPhone, they're using iPads, and some of them continue to use Windows desktops. How do you deal with this massive change that's happened in the way customers interact with a retailer over the last 5 years? What exactly are you doing from a technology point of view to give these customers an experience that encompasses all of this?
It's a wide question.
Yeah, you can give a short answer.
Right. So there is this whole change in the way consumer is behaving, which as a brand, as a retailer, we started experiencing it. So unlike a one-way communication which used to happen earlier between the customer and the retailer, at that particular moment, the consumer has evolved and we have to cater to it that the consumer is talking to us at different platforms, at different times, and we have to respond. So this poses a different kind of opportunity when you can be engaged with the consumer throughout his life cycle or throughout the day. So to address to this opportunity, the initial step is, we looked at the possibility of us getting online and then trying to cater to this need. Now, that itself is another outlook in terms of from the organization point of view or from the opportunity point of view, because traditionally we are used to setting up a store in a high street and then waiting for the customers. And customers walk in because there is a catchment area there and people walk in. Now in online, we are setting up and we are finding high streets now. So it could today be Twitter, tomorrow something else. This is where the overall technological evolution started. And that's where, we are looking at closely how do we reach to the customers, as we were discussing earlier in terms of, can we look at identifying this customer and start chasing him wherever he is going. So that's how, retargeting or remarketing or anything like that. So fundamentally, I'm looking at, 3 stages here. So we are looking at, there is exponential growth in the devices or the mediums through which the consumer is interacting with us. The second is in terms of what kind of data he's throwing up and how do we look at it in terms of analyzing this, because this suddenly gives us an opportunity that instantaneously we can react. Now, building capability is a larger challenge, it's a technological challenge we need to overcome. Okay. Right? So that's how I would like to.
Okay. Let me ask you a question which I think is on top of mind for a whole lot of retailers, certainly in the online space, Vikram, so you can help us. In the last 12 months, there has been a change focus, certainly from e-commerce companies, to move away from transactions to making money in the business. And in my view, technology is going to help achieve some of those objectives. How are you using technology to improve gross margins and unit economics? Because unit economics seems to be the base at which a lot of e-commerce companies faced a challenge. Broadly, what is being done? What are you doing to use technology to improve unit economics and make money in the business?
Sure, I mean, it's actually a pain point because Home Shop 18, and I'm sure the rest of our competitors as well, are struggling with this idea of, how do we get on a path to profitability, or at least have a line of sight
right.
towards, profitability. I think the days of, irrational focus on overselling products that already get sold by themselves, without much effort, are clearly numbered, are over. So the focus now is on, how do we start looking at every single SKU that we have in our catalog and understand the economics at the unit level, so that, and particularly for folks like us who are horizontal players, if it's a single brand retail, then it's the challenge is one thing, but when you get into a multi-brand retail environment, particularly for folks like Home Shop 18 or Flipkart or Infibeam or eBay or Indiaplaza for that matter, everyone wants to have a humongous catalog, and there are literally thousands of products. Now, how do you take a portfolio approach without fully understanding the economics at the unit level? Right? If you sell a product like a Samsung mobile, the margins that a brand offers are no more than 5 or 6%, right, at the base level. Unless you achieve a certain critical volume in that brand, you will not be able to get any back-end incentives as well. Whereas you take something like what Shiv and company sell, you have some fairly healthy margins built into it. Now, how do you marry these two and somehow arrive at a bottom line that is palatable for us, for the investors, and for the rest of the financial stakeholders, right? So now the idea, your question about how technology is being used, unfortunately we don't really have any robust technology that we're using to improve. However, if you were to look at, we keep saying internally, I keep saying that, look, every single web page is a salesman. But I wish it were true. It is not a salesman, because when you walk into an offline store, right, we were talking about it earlier. So if I'm checking out a shirt or a pair of trousers, there is a guy who will help me and will get a lot of insight from me on as to what I'm looking for, what is it that I need. That information is fed back into the system to make some intelligent decisions. That's at one level. Second is, let's say you have a product that has 5% margin and you have a product that has 25% margin. Can I somehow sell both these together and make money at the end of the day? I haven't seen any site that has technology that can do bundling in an automated fashion on the fly, right? So we are having to struggle to somehow artificially juxtapose two products and bundle them and predetermine for the user. So it's awkward for me to say, buy a Samsung and you will get one shirt free if you spend $5. It's just a bad, adjacency. So if we have technology that can automatically figure out what these adjacencies are, I think we'll start making money. So right now what we are doing is the very crude way, there are a couple of widgets that we use on our site. So if you're looking at a particular, I'll not name brands, but if you're looking at a particular technology product, digital product, what we do is there's a widget that comes out and says, look, if you want to buy this, there's a similar product, at a cheaper price, but with the same specifications. Clearly, the underline for, the line for us is, it has better margins for us, right? So that's one way of doing, but clearly we need to get into a situation where we have robust technology that will allow us two things. Number one, being able to do bundles and combos on the fly based on the user's disposition, right? Which a salesman would do. If you walk into a mobile store or a Universal, the guy will say, hey, by the way, you bought this Samsung S4, do you really want to walk out with just the phone, or do you want to buy this case and a Bluetooth accessory, and by the way, there's another package, which our web page doesn't do today, right? We should be able to get to that. And I guess, we'll also talk later about how a lot of people have talked about analytics yesterday. Now, there is a lot of data that is available for everyone who participates in a retail environment. But I haven't seen any robust analytics platform that integrates all these data to throw up insights. Earlier, Shiv, you were talking about, okay, I have data on how many pieces got sold, and you were talking earlier about 30 variables. Unfortunately, it's not 30 variables. It's a million variables that we have to contend with on an everyday basis. And how do we as business managers make sense out of all the data that is being thrown out by our systems?
Okay. So Rajesh, I have a question for you. Most of the technology that we're have discussed, and I think people's perception of technology is the glamorous front end of the retail business. But retail, the nature of the beast is such that margins are low, difficult to make money, whether it's offline or online. And clearly all the money that has to be made is really at the back end, never at the front end, where the customer prices can't change. How do you use technology to leverage the back end and build it such that it allows us to scale profitably? What's the secret sauce there?
Yeah, just before I answer your question to Vikram's response, right?
Yes.
I'd like to say there is technology today that can provide those recommendations and product recommendations that are aligned with what the customer is buying. we'd love to show it to you sometime.
Sure.
Okay.
The only risk with that is that I know some of these technologies throw up a pack of yellow underwear with a smartphone, right? So,
No, it's much better than that, I can assure you of that. So, coming back to your...
There are a bunch of poor players in the e-commerce industry. As long as IBM takes care of that, I think we'll be more than happy to adopt those.
We'll figure out a way, right? That'll be pretty
so this can go offline.
Sure.
Right?
So to coming back to
Yes.
your question, right?
Yeah.
I mean, given that a lot of people think you come online and you're selling the product and that's the whole part of the transaction, but obviously there is fulfillment, as Vikram pointed out. There is there's a whole distribution network. How much inventory do you need to maintain where? And some of the online players have also taken the approach of working with a large number of other third-party players to sell the products, little realizing that your brand is now dependent upon how well the other person is able to fulfill.
Yep.
Right. That's why Amazon, if you see, a lot of the fulfillment happens under some very tight regulations. I mean, that everybody has to sign up to.
Right.
Because at the end of the day, it's your brand that's suffering. Right. So there are tools here on both the sourcing side, for instance, all the supplier partner integration, right? So that the information flows much more easily. And it's not stuck on paperwork and faxes and emails and so on. As well as there's tools for optimizing, where you locate your DCs, where you position your inventory, and in conjunction with the demand, right? And in conjunction with the supply, so that you're much more thoroughly able to satisfy the demand without having to make people wait. Instead of, if you promise 2 days and you're shipping it in 5 days, bad sign, right? And as well as on the marketing side, for instance, you now have, at least on the modern retail, right? You have ability to, optimize your promotions and your pricing in such a way that you can actually get the best price, as well as, throw out the right promotion for the right customer, right? Because in the not so modern retail, it's hard, given that you're not really connected to that world as much, right? But in the modern retail, in online retail, obviously, it's very much possible.
Okay. So I'll come back to. Okay, just.
The overall online experience, I think while it is very essential that cross-selling and upselling should take precedence. But at the same time, I think we are at a stage. Online poses its own challenge. Discovery itself is a challenge. So today the consumer himself is very evolved. He knows what he wants to buy. Basically, he's built it. At the same time, it is in our interest to upsell and cross-sell. But from his side, probably he wants just to come, pick, and go. That's the experience in it. How fast can you enable that transaction in the process if you can? So I think discovery or searchability of the millions of SKUs, because unlike physical store, here it's an unlimited ocean as far as shelf space is concerned. So that is one area where everybody is, I think internally, you are working, we are working on the side internal teams are working. That's one. Second, from pure offline retail plus online retail, we are trying to give back this information. So one of the things which we have now introduced is, now based on traffic, based on orders, we give back to our offline team that this could be a potential location for you to put this particular brand store. So that's how technology helps the offline.
Okay.
So everybody's added on, can I?
Please add, then I will move back to the audience. Go ahead. Last point.
So we were talking about profitability, right? And we were talking about sales-related profitability, but and we are also talking about backend. So if you think about it, actually a lot of profitability actually lies in merchandising. As a retailer, how well do you buy the right products at the right time and at the right quantity, right? So that you don't have too much extra inventory and you're figuring out how to get rid of it and things like that. So if you apply analytics to your purchasing process, you can actually evolve your entire sales processes get driven by how you shape your buying process. Today, buying really is done by a bunch of merchandisers, and it's a little, if pardon the expression, seat of their pants, right? They make certain buying decisions on the go. A lot of it is based on their past experience. They've been doing this for 20 years. They're usually right, but there is a lot of value in doing that and using analytics, and it can actually make a tremendous difference in terms of, as a retailer, in terms of managing your margins better.
Okay. We'll go back. How much time do we have? 5 minutes? Okay, so we'll have, yes.
Yeah, so quickly I will ask my question. E-commerce itself is actually a new industry, and now all the players actually, they have been in the process of putting their money to acquire customers, and now now the topic of this profitability actually is coming into the limelight. So now all of them actually now they want to concentrate on this profitability. So already there is a new technology which is evolving called eCommerce. So as far as this technology is concerned, how do you see this eCommerce? Do you think that this eCommerce will take over e-commerce, or it will fade out these e-commerce after a period of time? And my second question is, at least do you see these eCommerce as a profitable business?
So,
So,
you want?
so for us, as I mean, earlier also there was a debate about television penetration. So internet in India is seeing very unique situation here. Before the desktop or laptop internet penetration reaches its saturation level, we are seeing mobile internet penetration picking up. So that way, it's just a device change. From a pure business model perspective, fundamentally e-commerce and retailing, there is no difference about it. We are selling, we need to make money, right? Now, primarily we are driven, instead of retail, physical store or land, we are driven by technology. We are creating virtual stores. So whether it is a laptop or a desktop or a mobile, it doesn't make a difference. How fast are we adopting? I think consumer has adopted faster than retailers. So today we are seeing 5 to 7% of transactions. We are very low in terms of number of transactions, but 5 to 7% of transaction is coming. We are seeing that the average ticket size is much higher when a consumer transacts through a mobile or a tablet than a desktop. We're seeing these trends. But have we as retailers moved ahead and made our site robust? I don't think so. We are focused on it. So this is a classic case of why an online retailer, the largest online retailer, didn't have any retailing experience. Walmart is not the largest or fastest growing retailer because we ignore that 5% in the fast pace of growth.
But technologically, how challenging it is for an e-commerce company or a new startup to adapt to these e-commerce?
Yeah. So in terms of technology, I think, again, consumers have evolved. The back-end open source technology has also moved very fast. So there are platforms available which on the fly can make your website mobile compatible. The challenge is payment technologies has not yet reached.
But the short answer to your question really is that it's not a big challenge. I think it's doable.
So do you see that because e-commerce, the strength of e-commerce is the huge catalog and the convenience of ordering and the safety of transaction. Do you see that down the line all these three features will be accommodated?
Yes, it will. But it's still, I think, few years away as far as India is concerned.
Yeah. From an India perspective, we don't have to worry. 70% of transaction happens in COD. That's the safest mode, even in mobile.
Yeah, we'll get just last two questions. We're running out of time. You and you, the last two. You go ahead.
Yeah, my name is Ramesh.
One sec, one by one. We've got time for both.
So my name is Ramesh. I focus on mobility solutions for the retail industry. My question is, the panel members mentioned about the customers, the consumers are evolving, they are changing, they are using new forms of devices for getting to know the information about retail, the players. Now, in that sense, what technologies are adopted by retailers to elevate the capability of the employees so that employees are equally knowledgeable in these new technologies, they know how to serve these kind of customers who are walking in?
So, I mean, you're basically talking about associate-facing applications. I mean, I guess the gold standard obviously is Apple, right? We've all walked into an Apple store. There is no checkout mechanism. The checkout is on the tablets that they carry around. So mobile point of sale is one happening thing right now. The second one is about information dissemination, especially if you're selling products that are complex, like say a 52-inch flat screen TV, LED, blah, 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 right? So how do you educate an employee to provide the right information to talk about it better? So can you provide him tools on his mobile devices that?
In the current scenario, what is Home Shopping or your firm doing to elevate the capability? Is there a different hiring strategy for the skill level of employees so that they cater to this new segment of customers, or is there some tools, technologies deployed in place to make them address this customer segment in the near future?
I think I guess we're running out of time very quickly. I think the best way to do, again, I run the category management organization for Home Shop 18. The best way that I found in my own experience is whatever tools you have available cannot be just within the domain or realm of management. every single employee who is making decision, whether a call center guy who is picking up a call from the customer, or the category manager who's making decisions on what to promote, or the merchandiser who's putting up a banner, should have full-blown access to all information. Of course, clearly there are security issues around that. That's when you proliferate knowledge that is shared across the workforce, and those guys can make better decisions. If you hold back information at certain levels, then you always run the risk of not having a shared understanding of how a customer needs to be served. I think that's the short and long of
Okay.
the answer.
Yeah, last question.
I had a question for Shiv.
Okay.
In terms of brands like yours, where you have an offline presence, you also have your own trendin.com, which offers substantial discounts, and other horizontal players on whom you may not have control. How do you really ensure that your brand is well represented in terms of price points and that you don't have a backlash from trade? Because I personally stopped walking into the brand stores of Madura Garments because I always looking out for discounts, and there's always, even yesterday Trendin was running 40-50% discounts. Why would I then walk into an offline store?
Yeah, he doesn't want to walk into offline store.
Yeah, you are right. I don't want you guys to walk into an offline store first. But that's a conflict which is a challenge, especially for players like us who have a large or disproportionate share of their business coming from offline retailing. At the same time, this challenge cannot be ignored, but we have to live with it. The way I would like to put it is, yes, online as a medium offers a different opportunity, and we need to look at it. But at the same time, developed economies have shown that for every 1x sale, what happens online, the footfalls increases on offline, and also the sales is 2x. We are an evolving market. For us, there is a wide market open where awareness has reached, but our products have not reached. Availability is an issue. So it doesn't, at this point in time, I'm not more concerned about that. I'm more concerned that whether consumers are getting value or buying things.
Okay. Well, I think we've run out of time, so if any of you can meet the panelists offline, you should continue asking questions. Thank you.
Thank you so much to our panelists, Mr. Kaitheeswaran, Shivanandan, Vikram, Rajesh, and Vivek. That was really invaluable information for our retailers. I just wanted to quickly remind you our concluding session is a conversation of Kunal Bahal, CEO and founder of Snapdeal, with Ashish Jhalani.